It's the Paris Chong
It is healing, right?
Show.
Photography is healing.
Photography is
Art is
so
healing.
healing. I have to tell you, to pivot for 1 second without taking it too down, my mom died of cancer in 2006,
Mm,
and I was devastated. And then I got the job at the LA Times, literally like 5 months after. And
wow.
I thought, how am I going to survive this? How am I going to get a new job? New infrastructure, new job, new city, and I just felt like I didn't have the stamina to handle something like
Yeah.
that. And so I was not into taking pictures. And I thought, oh my God, the LA Times is gonna fire me, right? They're gonna dump me because I'm like in a slump. And here's the thing that happened that got me out of this visual slump. I started this new job, new city, new everything, which should be a wonderful time for
Mhm.
anybody, but I was so sad, right?
Yeah, well,
And
when your mom passed away.
totally, when your mom
That's the only
dies.
time I ever was depressed in my whole life.
Really?
Yeah, I don't I feel bad when people suffer from depression, but I didn't really even know what it was until my mom died. That was the only time I really felt really depressed.
I'm with you. You don't even know what it
It's
is.
awful.
So, but here's the healing of photography.
Yeah.
So I remember saying to one of the photographers at the LA Times, Gina Farazi, and I was like, Gina, I don't know why I'm here. I cannot photograph. I cannot do it. And she said, it'll come to you. It'll come back. It's not gone. Just be patient with yourself. And sure enough, I was assigned to photograph a woman who had been shot, Rose Smith, and she was paralyzed from the waist down.
Mm,
And there's something changed in my brain. It was like a switch went off, and all of a sudden I was so invested to tell her story
yeah.
about how she was struggling and raising her family after being shot. And then that sort of became this huge trajectory for me to be completely immersed in people who have been shot in Los
Mm,
Angeles
that's
and
interesting.
completely dedicated to that. And then the irony is the work went on to win a Pulitzer that you
I
mentioned
know,
about,
that's amazing.
but it came from a place, that work came a place from I was so lost,
But from pain and healing.
so much pain,
Mhm.
and I felt comfortable being around people who were grieving, who were suffering,
That's
who
wild.
were lost. Because a lot of people would say to me, "Why are you doing this violence? Why can you?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I feel, um, I feel like a kinship because we were grieving."
Yeah.
Now, I've never been shot. I've never experienced that. Of course not. But there's something about loss that is a universal
Mhm, and
experience.
everyone's gonna go through it or will go through it or, it's just part of life.
Yeah, and like I didn't have to
Yeah.
know your mother, but I could understand
Yeah.
exactly what you were talking about
Yeah.
when you were telling me about that felt like. So, yeah, I think that there is such a healing power with
Mhm.
photography and how it helps us, as a photojournalist, it helps me be more present for people who are experiencing sometimes the most difficult times of
Yeah.
their lives. I feel that I can be present for them because I've experienced it.
That's the story that you won the Pulitzer Prize for. Did you ever do a show with that work?
I had a show with that work in Paris
Okay.
for Perpignan,
Oh,
Visa pour l'image.
yeah.
And I remember they had me speaking about the
Huh.
work, and they were so wonderful to me, and they gave it a beautiful exhibit. And they said, okay, so clearly your work has changed the trajectory for this kind of violence in the United States.
Mhm.
I was like, no, it
What
hasn't.
year was that?
2012.
That's wild.
2012. Yeah, it was a beautiful exhibition. And I try to have the families that have been part of it still
Mhm.
be a part of, any kind of awareness that we
Right.
do or we talk about gun violence. So, yes, I did win the Pulitzer, and it was unbelievably rewarding to
Yeah.
have worked so hard on that story and then to receive
It's a good story too that it helped you heal,
totally helped me heal.
Yeah, good.
And I didn't know that when I was doing it.
Right.
But within time, I could sort of understand it all better. I was sort of my brain was half gone most of the time, but I think that yeah, it was such a beautiful thing, and I kind of in the back of my head because I'll tell you another really funny thing quickly. My mom had been diagnosed with cancer, and I was scheduled to cover the Iraq War.
Mm.
And I remember my mom was in the hospital and I went to see her and I was like, Mom, do you think it would be okay if I went to cover the Iraq war? You know, I've been like
Oh.
building up to this my whole life, my whole career. And she just looked at me and she's like, no. So I was like,
She said
okay.
no?
She said no. She said no.
Oh.
So what am I supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
My poor mom is like really sick. So I called my editor and I said, yo, I can't. I'm not coming. I'm not going. And I was at the Dallas Morning News and I said, I can't cover the story. And my colleagues who took my place, they won a Pulitzer for that
Oh,
story.
God.
So I was like, well, whatever. But then I feel like I had my mom's spirit with me when she
Yeah, you made
passed
the
and I
right
did that
decision. I
story.
think you
Yeah,
did the right
I
thing.
did the right thing.
Yeah, you that's no is no when your mom is sick. So and what about the Emmy?
The Emmy, that was super exciting. It was during a time when newspaper photographers were being tapped to actually create videos.
Mhm,
Multimedia was coming onto the scene, and I took to it very seamlessly. It
mhm.
was no big deal for me. So I just started to shoot video. I started to interview everybody had met. Um, and so I just pivoted from a still sensibility
Mhm.
to a motion sensibility. And, I had good colleagues at the at the Times who really helped me with the edit. And we put it together and, it won an Emmy
I know,
for
that's
new
incredible.
approaches to film and documentary. And
So do you wanna do more film and documentary work?
yeah, I would love to. I mean, there is something so important about a still
Mhm.
image. It sort of lasts with you.
Right,
But I also think as a society, we are completely moving towards moving images, right? And I love people being able to tell their own story,
right.
right? There's an agency that they get to have. Whereas an image, I'm sort of the author of it and I kind of tell the
Yeah.
story. But there's something so beautiful about people being able to tell their own stories.
Mhm.
And so I'm really down with that.
Is there a story that you're like, you wish you could do work on, like, a particular story that you would love to do something like that for?
It's really funny. I mean, most people won't understand this particular story, but there are two. I'm working on a story right now about seniors who are being evicted in Los
That is
Angeles.
very sad,
It
but needs to be told.
shocking.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
my arena is always the heavy
Mhm,
duty
mhm.
assignments, the heavy duty
Well, someone's
stories.
gotta do it, and you do it
And
well.
I mean, I'm there. I'm
It's
always willing
good.
to it.
Yeah.
So that's a story that I would love to figure out. How am I going to translate that into somewhat
It's a
supportive?
horrible thing,
Oh, it's unbelievable. And to hear
evicting
their voices.
elderly people, and where do they go?
Well, they go to the street or they pass away. I mean, I just told a story of this woman who's just been, she was just evicted and she died a couple of months later.
Oh god, too
The stress of these kinds of situations are so traumatizing for people. And I think, you know, the world of photojournalism it's fading in some way.
mhm,
But there is such an urgency about telling people's stories and how important that kind of reportage is.
yeah,
And I am still very on fire about it. I'm still really happy about telling stories about the human condition and how people are getting through during the day,
mhm,
like what does their day look like? How does that feel? And that's kind of my way of operating in the world in the area of photojournalism.
right.
I feel like I hate to say this, it's going to sound so silly and pretentious, but I feel like I'm a visual humanitarian.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think you are.
Well, I appreciate that.
Now you said there was 2 things, what was the second?
Oh my gosh, the other thing is, I was born and raised in Montreal, and there's always this tension between the English and the French, and I feel like there should be an in-depth documentary about living side by side.
Yeah,
What is it like for someone who speaks French? What is it like for someone who speaks English? Because there's tension there.
right.
And I'd love to do a deep dive on that and explore it more. Um, but that would definitely I definitely need funding to tell films. Films are
Yeah.
so expensive.
It's the Paris Chong Show.